You are listening to the audio portion of the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at QBPowerHour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
Welcome, everybody, to another QB Power Hour. This day where we're going to be talking about the Bill Pay and MakersHub updates. We've got Charlie and Tiff from MakersHub joining us. So it's great to have everyone joining us here today. Michelle is fresh off of her baby duties for me, Michelle. Welcome back. It's good to see you again.
That's right. I've been a Mimi for 3 weeks now. I'm very happy to have that new position. Little Aurora Bay Blong is doing well and growing, and I just love my new role as Mimi. She's adorable. I love being a grandma.
And knowing you for as long as I have, and how allergic you are to early morning.
I am allergic to morning.
For you to say that you got up at 6 a.m., that it must take a lot for that to happen. And I'm sure you did it willingly, right?
All it took was a little cry from Aurora, and I was like, I'll do that. Yeah, the first few days, when they got help from the hospital, Andrew and Carla just hadn't had any sleep for days, and she did not like to be swaddled. Most babies, you swaddle them, and I'm like, oh, those kids just don't know how to swaddle her tight enough. Let Mimi do it. I'll wrap her up good. No, that little girl's and fighting, and she did not want to be swaddled and lay down in her crib and stuff. And so anyway, the first few days, she didn't want to sleep in her crib and stuff. And so I volunteered to get up early and hold her so they could get a few hours of sleep and everything. So first couple of days, I didn't let them get back to sleep, and I got up early and held her, and they were able to get several hours of sleep, which felt good. And then she started sleeping, but you still could not swaddle her. Even the nurses in the hospital said, nope, she doesn't like to be swaddled. So we gave up on that. Of course, it could be a little hot too, and she didn't like it. She just likes to stretch those long arms and legs. She's going to be tall, I think.
Yeah, we called it the baby burrito.
Yeah, that's
what we're doing that.
Well, she doesn't like that anymore. So anyway, very glad to be here and be a Mimi now.
All right.
That's enough about me.
I appreciate you joining us again. And it's nice to make sure that Michelle is still around.
Yep. I'm
even
still
though
here.
you announced your retirement. Appreciate you joining us here today. So again, you want to introduce yourself for those that need no introduction to who Michelle is.
Okay. So formerly, I did a lot of speaking and training and QuickBooks consultants and all of that, but realized that life's too short and I'm there to let others do it and passing clients off to my son and things like that. And I think still take on projects here and there that's fun and enticing, but life's too short. I'm going to let the new generation take over from here. I'm going to focus on traveling and being a Mimi.
There you go.
That's enough about me.
My name, of course, is Dan DeLong, owner of Danwith and School of Bookkeeping. Worked at Intuit for nearly 18 years. Co-host today, as well as over at the School of Bookkeeping Workshop Wednesdays. And we have a couple guests joining us here today. Charlie and Ted, you want to go around the table and introduce yourself?
Charlie, you go first. Yeah, I need to update these bios that I distribute, but I spent, before co-founding MakersHub in 2022, I spent almost 20 years in the banking industry, originally on the capital markets business, and then in the fintech part of Citibank. So dealt with a lot of the payments counterparties and software counterparties that the bank dealt with. And from there, saw a lot of the shortcomings or opportunities that still existed in that world, and met my now co-founder who ran an advanced manufacturing company for many years, knew the problem set that we set out to solve very intimately because he lived it. And now we're well down that path of hopefully bringing some ease and efficiency to the world of bill pay and accounts payable. And Ted kindly joined us about a year ago. We're happy to have him.
So yeah, I was a recycled employee at Intuit as well. I don't know, Dan, if you're a recycled employee, but I was a recycled employee at Intuit for about about 10 years. I also was employee number 15 at a tiny little company called Zero, and I worked at Accounting Suite. Now I'm here at Makers Hub helping grow the business. So that's a little bit about me. And that's it, Mr. Dan.
All right. Appreciate you both joining us here today. As we'll unpack, if you haven't joined us for the first time that MakersHub joined us, I'm a big fan of this platform. It is something that is a welcome breath of fresh air. That's the phrase I was looking for in this space. And especially if anybody is watching or participating that is in the accounts payable space, it is so unique. And we'll talk about some of the distinctions about MakersHub, but I am a huge fan of MakersHub. I appreciate you guys joining us here today for a couple of reasons. One is that you guys are going to be sponsoring or being our CPE sponsor, which is something that is amazing that you guys have offered to help out with that, because and Hector and Michelle were doing the QB Power Hour. I was talking to Hector and he was like, that is such an administrative headache. And so I appreciate you delegating that for, but the plan is that the first one of the month, it will be eligible for CPE for the QB Power Hour. Ted was nice enough to let us know that he's got some extras this year. So we might actually have all of the remainder of 2024, but we'll see how many we can weasel out of them for this year. But at least the plan is the first one each month, including this one, is eligible for CPE credit. You can always check out the website for upcoming events, but we're every other Tuesday at noon Eastern, wherever we happen to be. If Michelle is on the East Coast with the baby, or in Central Time with her normal house, and whoever knows where I'm going to be, but currently on the Pacific Coast time zone today. But you can always go to qbpowerhour.com/resources for the PDF of slides, recordings, prior podcasts, and also other resources there. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have specific questions about topics that we're going to be talking about here today, please put them in the Q&A. You should see a little button at the bottom of the Zoom console for Q&A. And that way we can follow up if need be, if we can't answer the question live on the webinar. If you have general comments about how great it is to be a grandparent or a great grandparent, I saw that somebody was putting in the chat. Go ahead and put those comments in the chat. And then, of course, we always have links in the slides themselves. The link should be already posted in the chat and in the comments. So you should be able to see that. We are simulcasting on multiple social media channels. So the Facebook page, as well as YouTube and LinkedIn. But if you are watching on Facebook, you want to access or scan that QR code to give Facebook access to the streaming platform so we can see who you are when you comment and those types of things. And that has reminded me that I did not share it to the Facebook group. So I will do that shortly. And then, of course, we also have the QB Power Hour store as well for swag and things like that for all of your QB Power Hour needs. But let's go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing and I'll launch the first poll question, which will be, do you need CPE credit for this webinar? And then Ted can then share the slides and go through the agenda that we're talking about here today.
Look at all the yeses on there. That's a lot of certificates I'm going to have to produce.
Yes. More work afterwards.
That's okay. The way I can send you all personalized email messages. All right. So this is while I just want to make sure while this is going on here, the poll, that you can see my Makers partner update slide. Okay. So I just want to give everyone a little bit of background about what the slide is. And so this is something that I like to do. It's called a partner update and a sneak peek. We're doing it on the QB Power Hour today, but I normally do this with the partners of MakersHub. This is something we're going to start doing on a quarterly basis. And it really just goes through some of the feature updates that we've done in the last quarter. And then we're going to talk about either a handful of things that we're going to be releasing in the next quarter that we think are game changers, or one ginormous thing that we're going to be releasing in the next quarter. So it gets our users and then potential users an idea of what we've been up to and what we're going to be getting up to, right? So I like to have that little interaction with folks. And speaking of interaction, also, if you have questions while Charlie and I are doing this, I would love to be able to answer those live as well. So I don't have, because I have this PowerPoint up, I don't have access to the questions. So Dan, if there's something like just incredibly outstanding question that needs to be answered, just interrupt me. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to end the poll if that's okay, Mr. Dan. And a couple of things that I'm just going to go through a few slides. Now, I have to say this because this is one of the things that we have to do for CPE. You have to see my license sponsorship number, but it is a 50-minute hour for CPE credit. So in order to receive CPE credit, there is a little bit of housekeeping we have to do here. It's a 1 hour thing that we're doing here. You have to be here for 50 minutes. You have to participate. There's going to be 3 polling questions. Guess what? You already did one of them. So you're like a third of the way through, and there will be 2 more. So that's to participate. Now we will send out a little evaluation. That's not part of it. You don't have to evaluate to be part of for the CPE, but we'd love it if you did. And that's just, hey, how do we do? Could we have done better? Did the learning meet your expectations? You've all done this before. Those of you who have taken CPE, you know what this is all about. So we're going to go through quickly what the agenda is, and then we'll get right into the nuts and bolts of this. And Charlie's going to do some talking as well, because as I told Charlie yesterday when we were going through the PowerPoint, he's much more eloquent than I am. I'm more of a nuts and bolts kind of guy. Like I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Charlie can attest to that. When I'm excited, I'm like, man, this is going to be the best thing ever. And Charlie is just more, he's the guy you want to explain things. So we're going to do introduction.
Well, all of the backgrounds that we have here, he has the most books behind it. So he is the most learned of all of us here.
Yes. I've even read 1 or 2 about that stuff.
See, my background is a plant, some Star Wars figures, and normally a record or 2. But all right, we're going to talk a little bit about our learning opportunity. We're going to talk about what some leaders have to say in the industry that you guys have probably heard of. We're going to talk a little bit about our growth over the last 3 months. And then what we're going to do is look back at what we've done in the last quarter, a sneak peek, and then any questions, Q&As that we've done. So we've done introductions, so we don't have to do that. We've done our first polling question. Dan, you took care of half my slide presentation. So
there you go.
Pretty awesome. Okay, so the first learning opportunity and more CPE credits. So for the 48 of you, I think it was, that said that you wanted CPE credit, an opportunity, if you like with MakersHub and you wanted to like even try a 90-day free version of MakersHub, and you're like, hey, the best way for me to know even more about it is to get certified. You can take our live certification. We do it 2 times per month, and you get 2 CPE credits with it as well. So it is live. It's interactive. Unfortunately, you have to do it with me. So you have to be on there. Dan, I think you've done it, right?
Yeah. It was such an insight into the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg of what it allows you to do. It was really a good session.
And what's funny, it used to be 3 hours. And then I go, you know what, 3 hours is too much. I'm going to put it down to 2 hours. And now with all these updates, I'm like, holy smokes, it needs to be 3 hours again, because there's so much to learn. But what I'm going to do is we're going to break it out, and I'm going to probably do a 1 hour advanced certification and really get into some of the nitty gritty of the craziness that the product can do. Okay. So certification is one of the things that I would suggest doing, but let's talk about some of our mentions. I think you guys have probably heard of some of these people, but this is what some industry, some of them are leaders. Some of them are thought leaders. Some of them are like the Dan and the Michelle's thought leaders, but also user thought leaders that actually really do accounting work as well. So Jason Stats, funny guy, right? He's the YouTube sensation. I like this quote the most. Arguably the highest impact application of AI I've seen in an accounting role yet. It's amazing, like some of the things that he's done. If you want to go look at some of his videos on Makers Hub, Randy Johnson. It's funny. We talked with Randy. One of the biggest things that I wanted to do when I came over here was talk to Randy, Seth David, and things like that, and get it in front of people like them to see what they thought. And Randy's, man, he did a podcast on us just out of the blue. We didn't even know he was going to do it. And this is the most stunning technology that he's seen. And to have Randy Johnson say something like that is pretty big. It's a pretty big pat on the back. And then you probably know the guy on the bottom there, but
I see him.
You see him every morning in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
And then Seth David, the best app he's seen in many years to date, Makers Hub. And then every scenario Dan that you see right there, every scenario I've come up with, they've already thought of and is easily answered. So like Dan says, he's a big fan, and he's said that time and time again. Every time Dan and I meet almost once a week when Ted doesn't flake on him, and Dan's, he's got like a scenario or a client that you know what, this would be perfect for this client. Does it do this? And the question almost always is yes. So or he's already found out about it. He's like, wow, I didn't even realize it could do that until I talked to so-and-so.
And one thing I want to point out is that you guys' support is fantastic. The willingness for Bong or Sean to just jump on a call and really understand what it is that people need. And then Bong being the type of guy that he is, like, oh, if I'll work on it in a week, he'll make something happen that it didn't do before, it just blows me away that you guys are so hungry for that feedback and actually willing to do something.
Yeah, if I could elaborate on that, because I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah.
I love that people who have the esteemed views that you do and that your compatriots do that Ted has put up here, think highly of the platform is obviously very gratifying to us, but we also don't want to make this an infomercial. What we really want is for people to see it, to try, make a determination with the fulsomeness of opportunity to try it and to really put to task and vet whether or not the things that we say and we show are legitimate, first of all, and second of all, are they relevant to you and your practice? And the reason that we do webinars like this, and we're very appreciative of the audience, but the reason that we do it is because the things that you'll see in this update all came from people like you, Dan, and other users saying, hey, I love that you guys solve A, B, and C, but I really wish you did D and E. And D, Bong and I and Ted and the rest of the team look at each other and we say, that is a fantastic idea. Dan is not the only one who would want that. 1,000 other people would want that. Let's build it fast. Or we say, listen, E in this case is really kind of niche and bespoke and it's a good idea, but maybe not that broad an appeal. And we'll put that sort of on the back burner. So we really do this to hear from people, hey, this seems cool. It could solve me a lot of time, save me a lot of time, but I would also love it if you considered X or Y. And so that's really what we're hoping for in having these kind of interactions with everyone who's been kind enough to join.
Yep. Yeah. And somebody said, is that enterprise, Dan? Yeah. QuickBooks Desktop, all versions of QuickBooks. Somebody asked, is that QuickBooks Enterprise? Makers Hub does work with QuickBooks Enterprise. It was actually developed first to work with QuickBooks Enterprise. So somebody asked that in the question panel. Okay. Yeah. So what Charlie said is 100% true. I showed these mentions just so you know that we're not just some run of the mill little company. And exactly what Charlie said about these updates that we're going to show you we didn't just come out and say, oh, here's what we think that we should make. These came straight from the users' mouths, just like from Dan, from all of our users. So they're updates from the users. And so we wanted to go through growth. So this is important to us as well, obviously, as a company, growth. So new accounting partners, right now we have a very large focus. There's 2 avenues of where we're focusing growth. One is obviously straight through small business. and the other is through accounting partners. Where I know
These are since the last time that we were on this forum, which was 3 or 4 months ago, and
3 months ago.
Yeah, 3 months ago. So people are starting to hear more about us, and it's one thing to hear about it from us directly, but what's been really gratifying for us is that the vast majority of these new partners have heard about us from an existing user of ours. So it's colleagues telling other colleagues, which is obviously a huge testament and the best possible marketing you can do. It's great that this is getting out into the hands of folks and people are finding it valuable, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, and scaling new heights. Holy smokes, you would be surprised at how many people came over to us and said, "Oh yeah, we saw you guys on the QB Power Hour, or we saw you on this webinar," and they were bringing like people over to our booth to see us because they saw us either on or heard about us in the QB Power Hour group or saw us on the webinar. So we're gonna do one more polling question, Dan, if you could launch it. And thinking about customer experience, Dan, this is the one thing I wanted to put in here because you're not alone, but this is my favorite quote here is building an awesome customer experience doesn't happen by accident, right? It happens by design. And the one thing about that Charlie as well, but Fong is like, it's embedded in his brain, the customer support, and he won't do anything or grow the company fast if it's going to hamper customer support. It's pretty crazy. Okay. But look at that. Even Chris Powell is one of our CPAs from another firm, and he has almost the exact same thing to say as you do, Dan. It's almost that quote could have come from you.
It's you could just say Chris Powell and Dan.
Okay. And then after we're done with this poll, I normally do the 5-second rule, and my 5-second rule is when we get around 90%, I'm going to give them the 5-second rule. It's not like when you drop a cookie on the ground and you have 5 seconds to pick it up. But because not everyone wants CPE credit, we're going to go ahead, Dan, and you can just I'll give them the 5-second rule now. 5 seconds.
All right.
And put your vote in. And you can go ahead and close that down, or I can.
All right. I got it.
We won't share the results. And now, Mr. Charlie, we're going to go into our first 3, what we've done. Now, this isn't all that we've done. When we're done with all of the demonstrating some of these to you, I'm going to show you a site that you can go to that shows every single one of the updates that we've done. And I'll post it in the chat where people can go and take a look and see all the updates that we've done because it's pretty amazing. But Charlie's going to talk about these, and then I'm going to show it.
So as we mentioned, we're constantly in the process of continuing to enhance and evolve and just grow the platform's capabilities. And so each of these kind of big picture updates that we've done in the last 3 months came as a result of user feedback and things that people said they wanted and circumstances we encountered where we felt like we could be better. And so the first one is people wanted a much more integrated platform for managing their W-9s and their 1099 contractors. And it fits so elegantly in the AP process, the way that we designed it, that it made all the sense in the world to build. And Ted's going to walk you through how it works, and I can talk over or give the voice over it. But really, people wanted a much more integrated, much smarter, and a much more connected W-9 management process where really they could build in the constraint to pay vendors by virtue of whether or not those timely tax forms were on file within the AP bill pay process. And so the way that we did this is pretty straightforward, and building in a way where it was as straightforward as it is takes a lot of work, but the result has been a very rapid uptake of usage amongst our customer base for this element of the platform. Ted, if you want to jump in and show.
Can you not see my, sorry.
No, you're still on the
Slides. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Great.
I had my screen up. That was weird. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with apologies to folks who MakersHub is new to, this update is really going to presuppose that you've got some familiarity with MakersHub, but just 20 seconds. MakersHub is a full A to Z accounts payable automation platform that kind of handles all elements of the AP prepayment through payment processing piece. And for anybody who hasn't seen it and gotten the kind of bird's eye view, happy to connect with you and do that after this. But an important element of MakersHub is the approval workflows that we have built in the system. And the way that we think of approvals is as a two-pillared process. And those two pillars are, number one, bill approval. So is this what we ordered? Did we receive it? Is the pricing correct? Is the accounting coding correct, et cetera? And then the second question is, do we authorize payment for that bill? Even though it's valid, when are we going to pay it, from what operating accounts, et cetera? And so you can build and MakersHub approval workflows for each of those questions that differ and are conditional based upon what the bill is, who is it from, what does it say, et cetera, what the payment is, who is it for, what are we paying, et cetera. And in that latter approval workflow of authorizing payments, you can now toggle in MakersHub that before a payment can be made, you must require that a valid tax form be on hand. And when we turn that on, an admin on the account can override this. So there can be a scenario where, hey, this person that I just need to pay doesn't have a W-9 and I haven't gotten it, but I need to pay them, so I can override it. Otherwise, we're going to constrain the ability to pay this vendor until they have a W-9 on file. And so let's assume that we do not have one. When we go into the vendor portal, you're going to click on add a W-9 form. And at this stage, there are two options. Either you have it and it's in some folder somewhere, and you're just going to upload it here so it lives attached to this vendor record, or you don't have it at all and you need to request it from the vendor. And when you request it from the vendor, there are, again, two scenarios. So the first thing is the system is going to automate a request to the vendor where you can write a note. The system is going to email that request to the vendor. The vendor is going to receive an email like the one that you'll see on the screen in just a second. And when the vendor gets this, there are two scenarios. Either the vendor has that document ready and they can just upload it, or let's assume they don't have it at all. And if they don't have it at all, then they can fill one out here in this IRS compliant template that the system kind of precasts for you. And then by virtue of what is filled out here, the system is going to make the determination as to whether or not this is somebody that you need to track for 1099 purposes or not, and either turn off or turn on that toggle in QuickBooks for you. And then this soft copy document will be retained both in our system and available in QuickBooks. But now that this W-9 is on file, they will satisfy the condition in the payment constraints, and you can now freely pay this vendor. You're going to get a notification when they've uploaded it. You can verify the information or the submission, and now you are off to the payment races, so to speak.
And this is what I'm talking about with why I said what I think about what you guys do. It's you guys have thought about this from the end-to-end process. I just happened to notice that once Ted clicked on to send the request, that it said right there in the platform, hey, you already did this. We already sent that. So I can imagine nobody does it as fast as what you just said there. Closing the loop, you come back in here later and did I send them a request? What did I do with it? The fact that it's there as a little audit is even, just those small details. Michelle, what do you think? You're muted.
I think it's great. I was just getting ready. It's so easy that almost all of our clients should be able to do it. It's just drop dead easy. Everybody should be able to do that. It is amazing how easy and seamless it is. I just love it.
Yeah, thanks you. Again, these updates they're tricky because you go through it and you're like, this is very logical and very simple. It's also a real engineering challenge to build things that should be easy, but it should be easy. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be something that you need to think about. It should be integrated. It should be simple. This is not rocket science, right? Getting a W-9 should not be rocket science, and it should just fit in neatly and elegantly to the pre-existing process, which it is supposed to serve. And that's how we've thought about building this.
And one of the distinctions that you guys have is that you don't require people to create a login for your suppliers and those types of things, so that they can do all this without creating yet another login.
But I have a question about that. So can they create a login so they're self-serve? So after they get their W-9, or you send them the W-9 and stuff, so after they get the 1099 and then they lose it or whatever, and a month later, and they're saying, hey, I need another 1099, or can you send it to me again, or whatever, can they self-serve and log in and retrieve it again so that we don't have to keep sending them a duplicate or whatever, so that they had to log in to see their 1099 again for tax purposes or whatever?
Do you mean the vendor?
Yes, the vendor.
So a couple options. Either the vendor, and this happens all the time, either the vendor gets paid from MakersHub and gets these requests from MakersHub, finds it very seamless and easy to deal with, and they become customers and request an account, in which case they could have all of the analogous functionality that their customers did. Or you could, in theory, add them to their circumstances that are pretty edge casey, so I shouldn't even go into it, where people will add them to their account as a constrained user. MakersHub is very strict permissioning options as to what you can and can't see within the system. And so there can be scenarios where you give constrained permission to stakeholders of the business, vendors inclusive. There is not, and we do this very purposefully for the reason that Dan just talked about, we do not give vendors a login to see their interaction necessarily with the client, because when we were building the platform, we were shocked at the amount of vitriol that we heard about the vendor experience of dealing with other platforms where that was forced upon you. So we didn't even want to go down the road of, hey, this is an option. This is just, you can be a vendor. You can just get paid for the stuff that you sold, plain and easy. And if you've got other ancillary desires from the system, then there are ways we can accommodate that. But no, we very conscientiously don't make any kind of vendor opt-in.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the important distinction, I think, and Ted mentioned in the chat, but somebody had asked, do you do 1099s? Is that MakersHub does not prepare 1099s, but this will help that preparation. This information will synchronize back to QuickBooks or whatever platform you might be using to actually prepare your 1099.
That's exactly right. So we try to be very conscientious about the lane that we're in and staying in that lane, but being the fastest swimmer in that lane. And the tax prep.
You're the HGOV lane.
Exactly. We will make it
Autobahn lane.
We'll make it much, much simpler for you to do it in QuickBooks. But our opinion, not to speak out of school, is that when properly populated and organized, the QuickBooks functionality for managing 1099s is satisfactory, right? Like, we don't view it as being, hey, let's go do something that is a really left turn from our core piece of functionality, when if you can help with the organization, help with the data population, et cetera, that system can work. So we do not do the preparation. It's a long-winded way of saying, but we'll give you all the information, all the tools to do it in a much easier way.
Cool. Okay. So we'll go back to Death by PowerPoint here. So we've talked a little bit about the 1099 module.
Yeah. So the other thing, oh, sorry, Ted.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So the next piece that we're going to talk about is just show some of the big improvements that we've made to our ability to read and contextualize documents. And again, for somebody who's new, one of the biggest differentiating pieces of what we do is how well our software can read and contextualize the bills and invoices that you receive. And this is really, when you think about all of the other stuff that we've done, this is the core building block. If you don't have the right data, if you haven't given data from the bill the appropriate structure and the appropriate context, then it's hard to build these supplemental tools on top of them, right? Because what is it that is on the bill is really the fundamental bedrock of all of this. And so as we've gotten bigger, as we continue to appeal to more industry segments than we initially ever contemplated, we continue to see more and more complex bill structures. Ted has a great line. Ted always says that bills are like snowflakes. They're all different. This is eminently true. And a very common request from our users over and above, hey, you read this thing wrong and correct it, which I think we've talked about in the past, has been, this isn't wrong necessarily, but I want to utilize different information from the bill. And so what I mean by that is, if we look at this example, do you have a New Balance one, Ted? Maybe let's look at that.
Yeah.
Or,
and I can talk about this one if you want. So here's the New Balance.
Yeah, do this. So this is, so basically, well, go ahead, Ted. I'll jump in after. But
okay. So
basically, go ahead. And then
on this New Balance one. So if we take a look at something like this New Balance invoice, it's gotten everything correct. It's gotten the line items correct. It's gotten the total amount correct, the SKU numbers, everything is, for all purposes here, it's correct. The one thing that some people want to take advantage of is this discount that's already in here, and it's already reflective of the price. So there is a 15% discount that is in this invoice, and it's already in this total amount right here as well. So we've got everything correct, but we want to be able to put this discount within here, within the actual line items for that pre-accounting. So how do we do that in a case like this? And how do we do it? So we could do it manually, but we'll have to do it manually every single time. That's not very efficient for us. So how do we tell MakersHub, hey, inside the original bill, there is a notation here that there's a discount. So for those of you, like Charlie's been saying, that haven't seen MakersHub before, you can actually train MakersHub to do things, and it will remember the next time you want to do them. So within here, we have the information. The net bill, there is a net bill discount of 15% that's already reflected in the price. So let's go in and create that training, which I'm going to do here in this OCR utility. And I'm going to say OCR utility training. And this is where we get into some new extraction training that we've done in these updates. And for this one, it's an adjustment to the invoice discount. So I'm going to hit the plus key, and I'm going to select and search for this value over here, discount of. So I can select this drop-down arrow and just type in discount and look at it. Because we can scan and contextualize all this information on this bill, I can say the unit price reflects a net bill discount of 15%. And because our system is smart and it's not just dumb data that is in here, it knows that there's a preset discount. I can say the discount is inclusive of the price, and I can update the training with the price already in here of that 15% discount. So it already knows. Now, the next time this bill comes in from New Balance, it's already going to look at that area for that, not the discount. It's going to look for this information because that discount may change. It's not going to automatically put in 15% because that's too easy, right? These bills, like Charlie said, like I like to say, are like snowflakes. Just because it's always in that spot doesn't mean it's always going to be 15%. It's going to look, it's going to see 15 maybe one day, it's going to see 9% the next day, 10% the next. So we can train and teach it that it knows where to look for that discount that's already included. As you see, it didn't change the price, but now we can do things like put in that vendor discount. And I've created almost like a bank rule and integration mapping that now maps it to the correct chart of account codes as well. Charlie, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, this is going down like very deep down a very specific rabbit hole. Though we've encountered this a lot as we've started to accommodate a lot more like retail style customer sets. But we go through this example in a little bit more specificity to show, number one, the depth of what's been built, but also not that this is a narrow use case. And so there's a bunch of others. And another similar one would be where there are multiple columns, for instance, where they're valid, but I perhaps just want you to consider a different one for my purposes. So do I care about the order? Do I care about the ordered quantity, or do I care about the shipped quantity? There's not, if a AI computer vision model is looking at this and saying, what do I care about from a quantity perspective? It's going to, first of all, it's going to ignore this because it has no idea. Ours was really good, and it's going to make an assumption about which one you care about. But there isn't a categorically wrong or right answer. There's a right answer for one customer, and there is a perhaps different right answer for another customer. Two customers could get the same bill, and one says, I care about the ordered quantity, I care about the shipped quantity, as an example. And for MakersHub to be useful to the broadest amount of people, it has to support both of those right answers, despite the fact that they differ. And so we've built the capability to say, hey, for my purposes, when I get a bill from this vendor, I care about the ordered quantity as the quantity. Or for my purposes as customer B, I care about the shipped quantity. And so there are ways to train it to do all sorts of different things.
Yep. And so, sorry, Chad, just really quick. I had to train it to look at the ordered quantity. So right now it's on the shipped quantity. And just really quickly, just to Charlie's, just to put the proofs in the pudding here. Line item adjustment. I can just tell it what line I want to look at, quantity. And then it looks, because it scans all this information, it looks at, now I want it to look at the ordered, and I update the training. And that's it. It just simply looks at it looks at the ordered now and not the ship, and vice versa, whatever we want. Sorry, Charlie.
No, it's okay. Many people on the phone are probably saying this isn't necessarily relevant to me, this specific issue, but what we are constantly trying to do is to make the system's ability to read data, give structure to that data, and then make that data flexible and make the system flexible for how you need to manipulate it. And another way to do that we've recently implemented as part of these updates is, now that we have all of these line items, and Ted, I'm putting you on the spot, but we can now highlight individual line items, and we can take actions within this line item. So if you do Control Shift over the item, Ted.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Over the item number.
Oh, item. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you can do all sorts of things, like you could delete these out. If we go to the down arrow on the far right side, this gives you, hey, what do I want? I want to duplicate this line item below. I want to take this item, this mark item as distributable. I want to take this item for whatever reason. In the case where if we read that it's shipping or read that it's tax, we'll give you the option to distribute that tax pro rata across all of the line items and say, I want to have the real landed COGS, for instance. But we get cases all the time where, hey, this one thing I actually want to spread out. So point being, we've tried to be as thoughtful as we can about, hey, now that we have this data, how can we make it useful? How can we manipulate it? How can we make it flexible? And so that's what all of these updates are intended to do. And if there are ones that we haven't thought of that you guys would like to see, we would love to hear about it. And Ted, we can go back to the main.
And so that's one of the things, it's especially thinking, these aren't things that maybe that this is something that you can think about now. Okay, look at all the clients you can get now as well, right? Because it's not just about what you have. These are features that are pretty, yeah. Somebody asked, is there an audit trail for changes?
Yeah. All of them get timestamped and marked and audited in the chat box. And Tanya, we could show you where that is after the call. And then the last big thing that we did this month, and these are big updates, and hopefully it reveals how quickly we move through these, but still comprehensively and with a lot of depth. But the last one is more flexibility at the payment phase, the payment processing phase, and more direct user control within the dashboard. And so there are two big ones that we'll talk about. The first is you can now attach support documents to checks that you mail. So if you're paying a tax bill or a utility bill, or you want to include a payment voucher or something like that, as a printout with the printed check. Very simple for you to do. You would simply take a screenshot at the time that you're reviewing the bill, add it as a support document, and then at the time that you're paying it, you can select to include this screenshot as a printout attached to the physically printed and mailed check. You also have full control over the memo field now. So if there is something other than our default options that you want to include in the check memo, you can have full control of that at the time that you're paying. And then lastly, and much more importantly, is we would include, as our volumes were growing and we were getting bigger, we were having a ton of different payment issues, and not issues that were a problem of ours or even necessarily our customers. But for instance, there was an ACH remittance account to an account that wasn't valid. So it got sent back because it had the wrong account number or the wrong routing number or something, or a check that was undeliverable or never was received, or a customer needed to stop a check for whatever reason, and they wanted to switch it to an ACH payment. They needed to pay somebody really fast. The check was still in the mail or whatever. And so all of these things we could do, but it required you making a request to the payment operations team at MakersHub, and then would do it. And it still happened fast, but many users had essentially, hey, I would love to be able to do this directly. And I would also love enhanced notifications about where things stand. So we built a series of self-serve tools directly in the dashboard. The first is you now get an automated notification when a mailed check is deposited. So you mailed a check, the vendor deposited it, you get a notification that it's been deposited. If the mailed check was returned or undeliverable, you now get an email notification immediately. If an ACH credit or debit is returned, along with the error code that the bank and what that means, if an ACH refund gets processed. So all these things you get automated notifications from. And you can also take then the associated action in MakersHub. And so you can now directly from the dashboard cancel a scheduled outgoing remittance and request a refund. We authorized a payment that debit went through, but I'm now going to cancel it and I want to refund the debit. You can do directly from the dashboard. You can cancel a debit or credit that's in the queue, but hasn't yet been submitted to the Fed. So the Fed operates on 5 ACH windows throughout the day. And as long as we're between them, you can still affect a change until it gets submitted and recognized by the Fed. So now up until I think it's 10 minutes before the window closes, to double check that figure, but with enough time that, hey, I made a mistake, I need to back it out. You can do it directly from the dashboard. You can stop a check anytime before it's deposited. And you can, once that check has been stopped or an ACH credit has been canceled, you can now change that payment method to the vendor and reschedule it on a new outgoing remittance, all directly from the dashboard. So this is just making it much, much easier for the user to self-correct issues, be notified of issues, really not require you, as much as we love hearing from you, not require you to be in contact with somebody from our team unless you want to be.
And this kind of speaks to one of the biggest distinctions of MakersHub with all of the other platforms is that your transactional fees are non-existent because of the platform that you do. Does this, because I'm thinking stopping check, talking to the bank, there's any opportunity for the bank to levy a fee, they will do that. Was this included or is this part?
Good question. So today this is included. We, again, as you rightly identify, those are not fees that we impose. There are fees that are imposed upon us by the bank. And so today it works for us to just include this in the software. And that is the fact. So today we do not charge for it. I add the caveat that if the bank...
That may not be the case in the future.
Change it, it might not be the case in the future, but it won't ever be a profit center for us. It'll be a function of a reflection of basically the fees that are imposed upon us by our bank partners.
If you have somebody canceling checks more than their platform fee, that might be a cause for a cheese to pay.
That's right. Yeah. And I know we don't have much time. So Dan, if you've got wrap up stuff, we can skip what's coming next and we can just show you what's coming next, or I can speak to it quickly.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. I did all my stuff ahead of time. So we can.
Yeah. So the next big update for us that's in process right now, and the thing that we get asked for most commonly by a lot, is a full purchase order module. And what we mean by that is really three-way matching capabilities. So we have a lot of customers who are purchase order driven, and they want the ability to interact with the purchase order at the bill review phase. So I have a purchase order, I got a bill, and either it all matches up, which is great, or there are discrepancies in the price, or there's a discrepancy in the quantity. And what do I do about that? Today, this is a really hard and manual challenge to solve that we can add a lot of ease to. So the way that this will work is that you will get a bill. We will, when we get that bill, serve all of the open purchase orders that you have with that vendor, allow you to open that purchase order that associates to the bill. We'll identify where there are discrepancies. So let's say there's 5 line items on that bill, 4 of them, the prices match, 1 does not. Well, purchase orders and three-way matching are complicated because, again, as that circumstance that I described earlier, which is correct. Sometimes you're going to say, no, we had a purchase order contract. We're going with the price that I agreed to. The other is going to say, I don't want to piss off this vendor. I'm just going to pay the price that they charged me. So you will have full interactivity to select, hey, which price are we going to use? All of the associated record changes. And then let's say the purchase order was for 1,000 units, but 800 got delivered. What do I want to do with that? Do I want to keep it open as a purchase order for 200? Do I want to close it? All of that will be able to be accomplished directly from the interface in a side-by-side view where we've highlighted basically where discrepancies are and where things match.
There's a question in there about, will the purchase orders come in from QuickBooks, or are you creating purchase orders in the platform?
So both. We will have a purchase order origination module as probably step 2 of this. Step 1 will be, as long as it exists in QuickBooks, we'll pull it in from QuickBooks because that's the more customary ask. Hey, I love this project management software that I use over here, but the way that it pushes purchase orders to QuickBooks is annoying. It pushes it as a bill or whatever. So we will pull it in from QuickBooks to start, and also have the option to originate the purchase orders from MakersHub eventually.
Because I think the purchase order bill linking process, especially in QuickBooks Online, is room for improvement, I guess is the nicest way.
It's very diplomatic.
Yeah. And Charlie, I'm sorry, I zoned out for a minute there. You were saying you ordered 1,000 and you got 800, but you could decide on the 200 if you wanted to leave, if it's on back orders. So you can't have one purchase order linked to 2 bills, like for the 800 and then the 200 that might come in later. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, because
So
like
in that case, you would update the purchase order. You could close it and say, I'm just going to restart, or I'm not going to get them, or you could update it, right, to reflect the new balance, which is 200.
Okay. Gotcha.
So there's another question there. Somebody asked if there's a fee for the partner program. So there's no fee for the partner program. There is, like I said, certification. Right now, there's a polling question up if you'd like to learn more. And really what the learning more is just a quick appointment with us to find out about what you're trying to accomplish, and to really just get you set up with your free 90-day trial of MakersHub. So what happens is you get a 90-day trial of MakersHub. The minute you put on your first client, then you manage your client through MakersHub. So the MakersHub product is yours to manage the client, right? There is also a partner program where after, I think, Charlie, it's your 5th regular version or displayed version, 3rd displayed version of MakersHub, you get a 15% margin. Yeah. And Michelle put up the pricing there. We do also have a pay-as-you-go plan that's only offered to our partners. That is not included in like the partner margin or your partner tier, but it's there for people that have a few.
I got to jump through other call. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining. Thank you, Dan and Michelle, for the audience, as always.
All right.
Okay. So go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
No, I was going to say one other thing that I wanted to mention, and it just fleeted out of my head. So I'm going to toss it over to Michelle because she actually was going to say something too. It'll come back to me.
I was just going to say that this is really awesome. And I just wanted to highlight earlier, you had posted Randy Johnston in his comments. And I just wanted to highlight that because he's been around. He is very experienced like I am. And
Another diplomatic answer.
he is a tech guru in the industry. And he's the one who at all these conferences is giving the tech update on what's new in technology and what to look for. And when you're buying your computers or you're setting up your network or you're doing this or you're doing that or whatever, he's the one who's always talking about the latest, greatest technology and everything. And so when you're saying he is doing a podcast on this and he is talking about how awesome it is and everything, that really speaks volume. That's like the gold star seal of approval. So I really wanted to highlight that. When he's saying he's very impressed and everything, I mean, that really speaks volume, not to minimize Dan or Seth or Jason and their valuable insight on how valuable it is for our clients and our use as accounting professionals. It all just goes to say how really great and happy you guys have.
Michelle, when I was at Scaling New Heights, and because he has so many, he does a lot of speaking at Scaling New Heights, right? And Randy comes by our booth and we've developed a working relationship with him. And just so everyone knows, it's not like he's not a paid influencer for us. I showed him the product and I'm like, how can we work together? And he looked at it with his partner, Brian. And then all of a sudden he just started talking about us, making content. And when during his presentations at Scaling New Heights, he mentioned us many times. And that's why the people came by our booth. They're like, hey, Randy talked about you guys. And it's just like you said, it's wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I just think that's awesome. So well done. Love seeing all the new updates. And thank you all for sponsoring us to CPE and being here again. And I think it's awesome. Thank you.
And I will be working for the rest of the week. So by Friday, I promise all those 48 people who said yes, as soon as Dan gets me all the names of everybody, I'll get those. I'll start working on them.
Oh yeah, you're blaming me.
You all.
So if anyone wonders where they are, ask Dan. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, there's Dan.
I'll be sending
I remember
a thank you and their CPE.
I remember what I wanted to say. If you needed to get an understanding of the basics of what MakersHub can do, we have the original webinar that they did with us 3 months ago, where they go into the starting point of that on the same page that we have on the QB Power Hour website. So you get 2 for 1 there on MakersHub's site on our.
I had enough already.
Exactly. All right. We appreciate you both joining us today. And sorry I couldn't say that to Charlie's face.
I'll let him know.
But I appreciate that. Michelle, it's always great to see you. Next time we're going to have, we're going to finish up our QBO updates that we didn't get to last time. So we're going to have that discussion next time on the QB Power Hour. And we hope you all have a great day and a great week. And we'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the QB Power Hour podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our Facebook group. You can find those resources and much more at QBPowerHour.com.